17 Megan Boulevard. I would like to ask for a legal interpretation or an explanation.
Excuse me 1 minute. Think you can move that, Jeff?
Oh, I'm sorry, sure. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would like to have a legal interpretation, or rather an explanation, of the legal interpretation regarding resolutions 172, 173, and 174. Now, initially, this project was considered to be one project. And it has been handled like that by the town board as one project. And so given that explanation, and given that direction, the homeowners in the area treated it as one project. Now it is split into two projects. And so the petitions that were gathered, where it would have resulted in 20% for the supermajority as one project, now is split into two projects. If it had initially been handled as two projects, then the homeowners in the town would have gone ahead and would have followed through with the 20% supermajority. I believe this is extremely misleading, and it sets a precedent for the town board and for the homeowners to be on alert that what was initiated, in fact, is changed. In fact, these resolutions weren't even on the agenda tonight by 12 o'clock, because I checked. Now again, my question is, what is the legal interpretation, so we have a public record, of why one project, which was a rezone, one rezone, is split now into two, and you're indicating that they did not meet the requirements for the supermajority for both of these items? Because my understanding, and again, I'm speaking from a layperson's point of view, that you need 20% of the aggregate or cumulative amount of properties in terms of petition signatures. And they did have 20%.
First, if you can hear me, the project was treated as one project.
Correct.
Maybe if you're pointing to where you're looking at, in the resolutions, nothing's in the resolutions that's dividing the project into two separate parcels. You know, the legal interpretation here was because it was submitted as one project, and because the parcels are contiguous, meaning that they have a common border, that you have to have the owners signing the petitions that own 20% or more of the land surrounding the entire parcel that's going to be rezoned. And it's because we treated it as one parcel, subject to the zone change, that the petitioners don't satisfy the requirements under Town Law Section 270-174 and Town Law Section 265. Actually, if we were able to treat it as separate parcels, then you would have satisfied the requirements under the town law. And that's why I'm a little confused. I'm not sure where you're looking at in the resolutions to indicate that we separated the parcels, because we didn't do that.
Well, from what I can understand, there was one rezone. And
Correct.
The homeowners were told that they would need one petition. And now it appears that they did have the 20%, which was the cumulative of the properties in that area.
That's not correct. Because there's one parcel, and because it was one project, they didn't have 20% surrounding the entire parcel that was subject to the rezone. Am I explaining that clearly?
Well, I'm asking you for the public interpretation of your legal interpretation.
Right, and that was the interpretation. We looked at the tax maps, we did the calculations and reviewed the calculations submitted by the applicant to see what properties were on the petition, We determined whether or not the people signing the petition were actually owners of those parcels. And what the petitions were required to have was ownership, demonstrating ownership of 20% or more of the land based on several different categories, either adjacent to the frontage of the proposed zone change or within 100 feet. There are several different avenues to protest. We treated the petitions all as one, so we didn't separate the petitions. We looked at the signatures on both petitions and applied them to the whole zone. So, you know, in our opinion, treating it fairly conservatively and giving you the benefit of the doubt on the petitions in terms of getting the aggregate number higher than it probably could have been if we looked at it differently. And the end result was that there was less than 20%. It was a little over 17% of the entire parcel.
And that was on the Curry Road section, but there was 20% on the Floral Avenue section.
No, collectively there was not. And that's where we, where we looked at it in terms of the one parcel, one project, which we were bound to do under New York State case law, because there's a contiguous boundary between the two parcels, and we weren't able to separate them. Had we been able to separate them, then we probably could have come back and said, looked at it that way, and said that they probably do meet the threshold requirements for protest. So if you looked at it in terms of one parcel, which we had to do, and you looked at all the properties surrounding where you had valid protest signatures, there was not sufficient protest and land ownership for that.
So just so that I clearly understand what you're saying, in the future, if anybody were to collect signatures for a protest, they would have to collect them by each block rather than one total project, one total rezone.
Well, I don't want to give you legal advice on how to do it, but I think you have to look at the application in terms of what the specific parcels are that are being subject to the rezone, and look at that to determine whether or not they are separate or contiguous parcels, and then determine how you need to approach it at that point. Because of the way it was done here, and because of the nature of the parcels here, we were bound to treat it as one parcel subject to the rezone, and we looked at all the properties surrounding that entire collective parcel. And because of that, it created a wider area. The number of petitioners was not sufficient. And as you know, it's not the number of people petitioning, it's the amount of land that they own. So you had to do that calculation to see how much of it everybody owned around the whole parcel. And we did look at that map, the town tax map, the property maps, and mapped out where all the parcels were